Wow, I really hope you're dropping that Twitch Prime. I'll just need about 3 of you to do it, and then I can get myself Twitter Blue verification, and you know how much I need that, folks. Anyways, we're moving on from that one, and actually, as someone who's got quite an opinion on that, but moving up, we've got a man. He's a Rocket League caster. He took very nice photos of me, and he's very handsome enough to call him Handsome Caster Danger Taco, but we're not going to call him that. All we got to do is call him our next new friend. Introducing everyone, please welcome Danger Taco! Wow.
Yes, wow, very, very, very nice welcome. So much so that your mic is struggling to keep up with the level of warmth that you are bestowing upon me. So I do appreciate that.
Oh, I'm sure it was way too loud and cut out for you, probably, but for the folks here in the studio audience, they got to hear it, so that's nice. But thank you so much for joining us, Danger Taco. I really appreciate you coming on. How was dinner? I saw that you had air fried chicken wings.
Yes, so I have been repeatedly talked to about saying, no, the air fryer is the move. And I thought that was like one of those Sky Mall purchases back in the day, you know, like you buy something and it's like completely useless in essence, but it's like you might use it once and it's kind of cool, costs way too much money. So I kind of just ignored it. But that actually like reasonable humans, not like, you know, the people who you couldn't really judge any of their opinions to be valid. And then they're actually saying, no, this is a great purchase. So I finally got it. And I'm thinking, what's the best possible thing that I can make at home that I don't often make? Make chicken wings, got some blue cheese, and it was delicious. It is quite filling, so I'm going to be digesting that throughout the show. And if I lean off camera, it's probably just a burp.
Okay, well, you could do it into the mic for authenticity if you want to.
That is true. I mean, I will consider that. I'll keep that option open.
Okay. Wait, so who is a person that you wouldn't want to trust their opinions?
Ooh, well, I mean, it's certain people, and and I say that not to even like be nice about it. It's just like there's certain people on the timeline, even people I follow, like certain mutuals, where you'll just see them have a take on something, and you're like, that's not really a good thing to have. Like, it's like that opinion, and not even like, and I don't mean that in like a political or moral sense. They just have a take, and I'm like, that is ice cold of a take that just has no relevance to factual reality whatsoever. So I can't really screw with that. So when they're like, oh, get an air fryer, it's like the equivalent of someone being like, yo, I have not regretted one day since adopting my Komodo dragon. And I'm like, I'm not going to get one of those, homie. That's a 7-foot long monster. I don't need that in my house. Like, it just, you read it, you take it in, you nod, and then you move on.
I mean, that would be a pretty solid guard animal if you had a Komodo dragon. I mean, actually, I don't know what their defensive capabilities are. I mean, if you were going to go for a strong, a exotic animal that would be illegal to own, what would you go with?
I feel like you got to go all the way. I feel like you'd go for like a tiger or something. Problem is just how much it would eat. I mean, I say the problem, like that's the only downside. I live in a 1,700 square foot apartment, but ideally, like get a tiger. It's gonna have to eat like several dozens of pounds of meat. So I'm just gonna be constantly the guy, like the math problem guy that walks into the supermarket, be like, yes, I will take. Looking at the daily menu. Yes, can I have 40 pounds of pork, please? Thank you. And then they just give me a whole rack. Probably not even like a cut up pig, just like a full pig. They're like, there you go. And then I put it in my cart and check out.
Yeah, you wouldn't even. It would still be alive at that point, probably. I would just imagine you would feed it your enemies. That kind of seems like the easiest way to save money too.
Yeah, it's only murder if people find out. So I think that's really all that we need to focus on.
Well, self-defense because it's in your domain at that point, right?
I mean, if they come in my home, if there's a way I can trick people into intruding, and my use of deadly force is instead of a gun or a bat, just a 700-pound tiger, then I think that would work.
You would say to the people on Twitter, "Hey, check out this new air fryer I got from Sky Mall." That's how you lure them in. Yeah.
And then in the background, there's a tiger, and people are like, "Is that a tiger?" I'm like, "Nah, that's an air fryer. Look at the photo. Read the caption." They're like, "I think that's a tiger in the background." I'm like, "Well, you're completely missing the point of this post."
Yeah, I think that's a good trap. I mean, a lot of danger in there. But speaking of danger, how did you get your name Danger Taco?
More or less, it was because I used to have really old username. I think it was Funktastic. I just wanted something dumb, and I don't like anything with numbers, so I wanted to avoid GG. I wanted numbers, so I tried for something unique, and I couldn't really come up with anything. And I knew I was going to get a PS4 soon, and I was like, well, I'm just going to keep using Funktastic, so not a big deal. So I didn't give much thought to a name, but one day I'm going out for tacos, as I often do with my collegiate friends back in the day, And they noticed I always get a burrito actually instead of tacos. And they asked me about it, and I'm like, it's because when you add stuff to tacos, that first bite's great, but then it falls out the back, kind of like a burger, because it's not contained, much as the appeal of the burrito, for example, in contrast. So they're like, well, if you're getting the burrito because of that, like, what would you add to a taco if it would stay? And I'm like, well, hot sauce, because then it adds that element of like lethality almost, because it adds the pain, but in a good way. It's like kind of dangerous. And then someone kind of pitched the idea of like, oh, like you want like a danger taco, and they sketched basically an idea that I had used was basically just a taco with like the deal with it kind of sunglasses. There's like an explosion happening behind it. The lore behind it is a little different. I'm not sure if the danger taco is a taco with that's like a steak taco, but like instead the filling is danger, or if it's like a danger taco as in like it leads a life of danger. My Twitch chat has been selectively making up lore for it, and I just go with where they go because they're the true creators of it.
Do you have a personal lore that you think is canon, but they just don't know about it yet?
I don't know if I have lore necessarily. I think a lot of the things I think about with lore. I mean, functionally in real life, lore is just like, I don't know, you got bullied as a kid and it made you a certain way.
Yeah,
like that's
wow,
that's lore. Basically, I feel like more or less. Like in real life, it's not like actual fun lore like video games.
Man, I mean the trauma is true lore. You know, I used to very much struggle with acne, and now I'm a handsome host, Los. Wow, because finally we broke out of it. Okay, well. Made me think about that for a little bit. I don't like that. I don't like that taco.
Took you to a dark place. I apologize for that. I shouldn't be doing that on the host.
No, honestly, it may make for a good show. May is a serious one. I might be doing VOD review later and think, what the fuck is going on with me? So why'd you switch out of Funktastic? Danger Taco is cool, but why'd you want to leave Funktastic?
So. Oh, that was a thread I left. So I had Funktastic, was fine, but then I bought the PS4, and they basically were just like, okay, cool. So welcome to your PS4, super dope. Sign in your PlayStation account. I'm like, no problem. And then I realized I don't have the password. I'm like, I forgot my password. Like, oh, check this email. I have no idea where it happened to that email. I just don't have access to it anymore. So I'm thinking, well, I guess I'm just gonna have to create a new account and then move on from here. And I'm thinking through usernames for like. I was just sitting there on the chair thinking to myself for 20 minutes. I'm like, yes, the PlayStation Network back then, it was kind of like an irritating thing to change your name. So I kind of just wanted to get it the first try. And I'm thinking it'd be something that's unique, that's kind of goofy or whatever. And I'm thinking to myself, and I remember back to that moment, Danger Taco. And I'm like, you know what? Fine. That won't stick. It'll be a nice temporary name. And then I just have never changed it since. So it works. So we'll go with that.
Why didn't you change it?
Mostly just because I was fine with it. I didn't have any problems with it. I don't think I nailed it. I'm not looking back at that and be like, that is my magnum opus. Like, it's not getting better than that. I do envy some other casters in the scene, or just for the regular names, and they just have great names off the bat. And I'm like, I can't do that. My last name is like 4 syllables. That just doesn't work. It doesn't flow off the tongue.
What name would you want to have, or who's someone that you're jealous of their name?
See, I don't know the name because I don't brainstorm names anymore because I'm not coming up with them anymore. I will say my good friend in the casting community, Oliver Bass. He used to be known as Bass from the past, but Oliver Bass is just a clean name. It's right to the point. It has just the right amount of syllables that you can get it over with real quick, and it's a solid name overall. 10 out of 10, no notes.
It almost sounds like a storybook character.
It does, but that's the thing. It's like something you'd see in a comic book, whereas like some of these other names are just like, you know, real names where it's just generic and really like out of there, or like not even generic. Like it's either way too generic, it's like John Smith, and you're like, eh, or it's like way too complicated, like a Polish name with like Z's in there, and it's like no one can say that. Like that's not gonna go on a T-shirt. No one's gonna want to buy that.
I mean, I guess. Would you buy a caster T-shirt?
I mean, if the merch is fire, I'd buy whatever people would sell. I still say I think if Bass has like a shirt where he had like an artist design an adorable cartoon bass like flying out of a river and like winking it or whatever, like it's just like a scene. I think that'd be a cute shirt. I'd own that. I'd buy 3. I'd gift them to family around the holidays. I think that would be fantastic.
And everyone would know how much that means to you personally. So that would be more like a gift to you, from you, to other people.
Yes, I would I would hope that they would forget who gave it to them and then re-gift it to me later, and then I would just recoup my purchase as 3 separate shirts that I can use for varying occasions.
Yeah, you could actually have different cuts. Like one could be sleeveless, one could be crop for like festivals, and another just for everyday wear.
I do like the idea of them selling only a t-shirt, but then Bass has to order it to himself, tear off the sleeves on one of them for like an authentic gritty look, or just like have a muscle tee cut separately from that, and he's just with a sewing machine by the UPS, just slowly sending these out to people. I like that mental image. That's the grind you have to do when you're full time.
I think that's for like tier 3 subs only. You get access to the special store, and then that's a handmade one. Do you have any merch?
I thought about that a while back. Back in the day, I had a peek because the Rocket League channel rated me like twice in like 4 months, and that's bad. And they had a couple million followers. So the way the Twitch algorithm works, I think still to this day, is every time you get rated, every follower of the channel that raids you gets recommended your stream for a while. So I was getting like a bunch of followers and a bunch of viewers off the bat, a huge boost of it, and I was just like, oh man, this is the big time, let's go. And a couple of people, and like at least 4 or 5 people asked me like, do you have merch? And I was thinking to myself like, no, but the problem is my sisters and my family are very artistic, I am not. And so I'm like, I can't draw something and it would like come out good. So I'm like, I need to buy like artists and basically be like, yo, make me cool stuff. But like, I don't know how expensive that is. I don't want to like invoice that to someone. And then what worst case scenario, my anxiety kicks in is like, hey, here's $500 or whatever, make me designs. And then they design it and I don't like it. And then I'm like, oh no, like I have made a grave error, a grave miscalculation.
I think you pay after, right? Like you pay after you get a design that you want?
So, I mean, this is something we'll probably get into later if I feel like ranting. There is an artist that currently I have paid them up front and they still have not gotten back to me. And more or less, they are currently scamming me. But
oh no, still, what?
Yeah, I'm out several hundreds of dollars due to commissioning a piece from them, let's say. And they were like, yeah, no problem. I'll get it to you. And then like over time, they were like, hey, COVID kind of hit me hard. I'm taking care of family. It's okay if it's a delay. I'm like, yeah, no problem. I mean, it happens. This is something I genuinely did not have a timeline for, and that was my error. I remember specifically saying in a DM, verbal contract, like, it's all right, no rush on this one, which is such a foolish thing to give a freelancer open space. Since I sent that DM, and since I sent the several hundreds of dollars to them, it has been, I think, 11 months since that transaction, and I still have not received my art. And I see them occasionally post on Twitter about like, hey, just got new gigs, I just got da-da-da, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, every time I DM them, they're like, oh, sorry, money's still a little tight. You know how it is being freelancer. So it's hard for me to get that money back to you if you want a refund. And I'm thinking to myself, like, yeah, it's all well and good, but where's my cash? Like, there's no chance. So like at a certain point, my girlfriend has been telling me I just need to like send a DM, just being like, yo, by this date, if you don't at least start like a monthly repayment program or something like that, like I'm just gonna like just dig into you on Twitter, which I don't like doing. The only reason I've been doing that is I'd like to think I'm a nice guy and I don't want to drag a guy if he's actually having a bad time. But I also...
He's been having a real fucking bad time.
Yeah, that's my thought. I was like, I lived for several years, like, or at least for a full year, paycheck to paycheck, like single dollars in my checking account, like end of the month for like at least a year. So I understand what it means to struggle. But this man, the way he's tweeting and the car he drives, I'm thinking to myself, there's no shot you are lacking for money. And if you are, then something needs to change soon because this lifestyle does not sustain you. If you're doing this for like a full year, full stop, it's just like, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like I'm giving him too much the benefit of the doubt, but that's also just another personality fault, I would say at times.
Sometimes, I mean, yeah, you don't want to put out that negative energy, especially on a timeline. Like, nobody wants to do that. I mean, there's definitely some people who want to do that, but I wouldn't want to be them. I like talking shit in a fun way, not like in a rude, like, this person fucked me. I don't like him. Y'all should have talked to him. Except for GameStop. Fuck GameStop. I'll say that openly. Terrible experience working with them. But I mean, I guess, what were you trying to get commissioned, unless it's like a secret?
It was more or less.
Months?
So it's funny because I've actually reversed my decision on it entirely, in that For the longest time, my logo was literally just Strawberries in chat. That's my girlfriend, IBB. But
Hello.
she,
Thanks for joining us.
but no, she's joining in and she's heard the story before. But I was just trying to get a logo commissioned because for the longest time, I literally have like just like PNGs kind of thrown together and like slightly edited, but for the most part, it's like it looks like a clip art. It's like you Googled my name and then an AI is like, here you go. And so I'm thinking to myself, like, what if I got like a real legit artist that I respect and follow on Twitter and get them to do this for me? So I hit them up and they gave me a draft. I was like, oh hell yeah! Can you clean that up and get it back to me? They're like, absolutely. And then just the whole escapade started.
Oh my god. Well, thank you, Strawberry. I stole this from Jimmy Fallon, but my desk I did myself. It's just the Saber effect and After Effects. By the way, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking a Rockstar Recovery, which is the hydration version of their chain. The only reason I actually like it more than anything else is because a lot of energy drinks are carbonated, and I don't like that, particularly because when I'm casting, I like to sip water and also an energy drink so I can like stay awake and be hype and everything, but also not have water to like meter it out and keep my throat fine. And when you drink in something fizzy, not only does it like it's like, you know, angry water, like it hurts sometimes
yeah.
to like chug it too quickly, but more importantly, if it's carbonated, it makes you burp. And so there's been times I remember I was doing that on a cast, and I got to a call that I felt like I was building up well. I felt like I set the stage good for this call, and then I was like near the end of it, and I was like, this wouldn't have happened if I just had my non-carbonated. So I found this. It has electrolytes in it. Cool. I don't really care, but it's more importantly, like it tastes like a juice. It's non-carbonated. It's just it's a vibe. I like it.
So is that still an energy drink?
It is an energy. It's 160 milligrams or something, which is still like a decent amount of caffeine, but
Are you doing something after this? I feel like that's pretty late, right?
My body, it just gets used to it. If I finish this, oh, you weren't talking to me. Just catching up to this is kind of a stream, but not really. In terms of a podcast, but no, in terms of like,
whoa! It's a late night talk show.
That's what I'm saying. I was like, it's kind of a stream, but most like it is actually a late night talk show. But no, the Rockstar itself, I tend to drink this late, and I just stay up to a certain point anyway. My body has a good rhythm in as long as I don't drink it much later than this.
Yeah, I drank Rockstar exclusively at the HCS Raleigh LAN down in North Carolina because they just had like fridges full of it, and I don't think I would ever drink it again. Because I just had too many. I mean, the same thing happened this weekend, or like the past weekend with all the monsters that were there. I think I drank like a total of 6 monsters over 2 days. I don't know if I could have it again. And I'm the ultimate monster simp, and it's been ruined for me. I don't know what's happening to me. I have to go into recovery. Maybe a Rockstar Recovery is exactly what I need.
That's a callback. That's a plug right there.
That's a callback.
I wasn't even there for that one. I just like piling on to this. This is an inside joke to the LAN Los and I just worked. So that was that's fun to bring that back.
Yeah, I clipped it. I've got that's a callback clip. So just a sidebar here. So that's a callback is me. My voice is cracking. I'm fucked. I don't even know. On the analyst desk, Septilence made a reference, or maybe Gompers made a reference, and I looked dead ass into the camera and said, that's a callback. And then I got cooked about it for the entirety of the fucking weekend. Rightfully so, I'll add. But, oh man, I've been destroyed over one thing. But going back to burping mid-broadcast, I drank seltzers, just like the regular polar seltzers in a broadcast, yeah. And that was a major mistake because like every 3 minutes I would go and this is a great push going over to B site.
Yes, it's the peril of that. It seems fine in the moment, you're like, I don't burp that often, but then when you're constantly talking while your stomach is like boiling with that shit, like it never ends well.
No, but looking at Celsius, Celsius isn't bad. Celsius isn't bad at all. Because I like seltzers, but also it feels like I'm staining the inside of my mouth. I don't know, like not with a dye or anything, but it just feels like there's a film that is left there. I don't like it too much. It feels like it's supposed to be refreshing. It's it stays with you. It stays with you, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Like mentally, like it like scars your brain, like in that sense, or like it lingers in like an aftertaste.
An aftertaste, but like it's more than just a taste. It's like a physical presence, a sensation.
I get that. I think there was a. I remember back in the day. Speaking of, I don't know why. Wow, this brought me back. I don't like um plain Cheerios. I think it's a D tier cereal because there's no flavor to it. It's like having a sandwich with just bread. And so a lot of people used to eat that. I used to have Cheerios as they're younger. It's like the classic like infant snack. So growing up, I used to do that. And the primary reason I stopped is because we always had Cheerios in our house, but I told my dad to stop doing it because that Cheerios and also Honey Nut Cheerios to me have the worst aftertaste for some reason. Like after you like gobble down that, if you don't have time to like brush your teeth or something, you're going off to school. My breath just smelled terrible. I feel like every single time I got a whiff of it, it was just like that faint smell of wheat, and it's something about it just not good. Doesn't happen with any other cereal. So to this day, that's what I think of when I think of Honey Nut Cheerios is, or just Cheerios in general, is bad aftertaste and the bad smell that I'm trying to like desperately hide. You try to like look away from people if you know you have bad breath and potentially someone's
Oh
near you.
yeah,
You're just, like,
I talk
talking,
like
talking
that a
away
little
from
bit.
yeah, because you don't want to like go ha, like exhale heavily, and they're like just get slapped in the face with that. You don't wish that on anyone.
No, definitely not yourself, because you'll be embarrassed. It's worse than they'll be experiencing the bad smell. Oh boo-hoo, but I'm gonna be made fun of now behind my back, or maybe even straight to my face if that's in elementary school. Kids are brutal. I can look back and say, oh, I wouldn't make fun of you. No, I definitely would. Everybody you talk to, if it was in elementary school, they would be mean to you in some way, shape, or form. And it's sad. It's sad thinking about that. But moving on, what cereals do you like now?
Okay, it's funny you asked that because I've haven't eaten cereal in like years, legitimately, just because I don't really eat breakfast anymore. I college conditioned me, even so many years out of it, that I always just woke up and I didn't want to wake up earlier to like go downstairs and make food and then go off to class, even though that's like objectively the best thing. But yeah, it's true. It's put in the chat. I've been eating the crap out of cinnamon toast crunch. It is just like so good, but it's also a cheat because cinnamon's like the best spice or like little garnishing you can put on stuff. So like it tastes so good. So I've been fucking up a box that regularly, which also then forces me to buy milk, which then also forces me to like think of other things involving milk because for me I can never balance out like how much milk to put in the bowl. And then I always have like running out of cereal first and have milk left over, or I have like no more milk and then I have cereal left over. It's a it's the definition of a first world problem, I would say.
The shit isn't easy for you, Taco. It's
No.
also in my head. I saw CTC and I'm like, that's got to be Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I feel Giga Brain making that call to myself. But also, here's a little hack that I did back in college, because in college, I was much more willing to eat more, but that's also because I was going to the dining hall. I lived on campus all 4 years of college, so that's very upsetting for me. So I never had that little bit of freedom. But I would go to the dining hall, Hasbrook, for any State University at New York at New Paltz fans out there. Hawks fly high. Caw-caw!
You're a SUNY student?
I'm a SUNY, baby. Yes,
I'm a
sir.
SUNY student as well.
What?
Oh my goodness. I went to Geneseo.
You wanted to wait? Where are you from, bro? Are you from New York?
I am from New York. I'm from Rochester, New York.
No shit. Wow. Since you are in Chicago, I just assumed you were from out there.
I've never. I don't think I've ever been to the New Paltz campus. I remember I edited the highlight film for a student that I played with in high school, and he went to New Paltz. What years did you attend, if you don't mind me asking you?
2014 to 2018. I'm only like a year younger than you, so I feel like
You might actually. Do you know? I guess I could just dox him. Do you know a Noah Onoff?
Noah Onoff.
He played on the D3 soccer team there.
Man, I only knew Lax Kids because I was a Lax kid. It was a club. We weren't officially recognized, so it was more of a just a drinking thing.
As you know, most athletic clubs are just an excuse to be like, we are now a collective. Now we can drink together.
Yeah, pretty much. It was like essentially a frat that sometimes went to other schools to play lacrosse, and we didn't have to get hazed. I mean, I cleaned up balls sometimes after practice, but that's, I don't know, if you're new, that's kind of just always going to happen. But I forgot what I was even talking about. Okay, yeah, in the dining hall, we had rice checks, and that was the only cereal I could have due to dietary restrictions, and it was so boring. It was essentially the plain Cheerios of the Chex family, so I had to make it interesting. I put sugar into it. I just put 2 packets of sugar into the rice Chex, mixed it around, and I called it a Frosted Loaf. And I was very proud of that name.
A Frosted Loaf. I'm sure after you graduated, they put that on the official menu.
I think they would. I've left my impact. At some point I want to, after I blow up and act like I don't know nobody, I would want to have my own esports, stadium, studio, arena? What would you call it? I guess just like a...
I guess you call it just a
center. A center,
like
yeah.
Center, yeah, center.
Center.
I feel like, yeah, that's...
Oh my God. Yes. I was fighting so hard to find that word. So... I want to have the Handsome Host Los Esports Center. And I think that would be enough. And then you could order a Frosted Los inside, but keep it away from the computers. We don't want milk and shit in the keyboards. Definitely not.
That's atrocious. All the managerial staff or the janitorial staff already hate you in the future Handsome Host Los Center for Esports.
Listen, I've got major respect for custodial staff. I'll always hold them in high regard. I'm not sure why. I think back in middle school, I just saw them and thought, they got it tough. I got to make it easier for them.
It's just one of those jobs where it's like classic, like, well, I feel like it's a very looked down upon job, despite the fact that like the entirety of society gets crippled the moment like trash pickup doesn't go through or like janitorial staff doesn't swing through. It's like they are the undergirdings of all of society. Like they keep us all supported. So I feel like having major respect for custodial staff is nice. That's actually a big pet peeve that I continue to have to deal with in Chicago. Is you'll just be walking down the street and or even on campus, like on my university campus, where there'll just be like a tub of chicken fingers or whatever that someone ordered from like Chick-fil-A or something, and there'll be a trash can like 10 feet away, like across the sidewalk, and it's just sitting on a bench. And I'm like, it's so easy to just walk that 10 feet over. And it's not like they didn't see it. Like you just walk it over and throw it away, but instead the people are like, I'm just going to chuck it on the bench. And then some people even have the weirder philosophy of like, oh, well, it's someone's job to clean, so it's not a big deal if I leave it on the ground. And I'm like, that's such a weird philosophy to take. Like, oh, it doesn't matter if I make a mess because someone else has to clean it for their job, so it's fine. I'll just make their job harder. I don't know. That's a whole tangent, but that's like, I can't stand that approach.
At my first apartment, when I moved to Brooklyn, there would always be chicken bones around the street. Like you could go any street in like a 5-block radius, you'd find chicken bones on the floor. There was not a Popeyes for like half a mile. Where are all these chicken bones coming from? And they were always there. They were always there, like a full-on wing, a full-on breast, a thigh. Just, who is leaving it here, and why can't you just throw it out? One time I was walking back to my apartment, and I saw a woman across the street finish a smoothie and just throw it on the ground. I was like, what the fuck is wrong with these people?
I can't pretend to be in the mind of people like that. I mean, I just always try to think like maybe they're just having like a bad day and they're like, I just can't even be bothered to do this one thing. But even then, I'm just like, I think there's some people who genuinely like this like doesn't matter. This action in itself is fine, and then they're just like chuck to the ground and just I don't know. I always feel like it'd be much easier to go through life if you just genuinely did not care about the optics of any of your of any of your actions. You could just be like, because throw it on the ground and you're thinking, what's going through their mind? Nothing's going through their mind because they do not give a shit. What a freeing mental state that must be.
One time I was going to a background acting gig, so like an extra on a show, and it was early in the morning, probably like 4 a.m. I got to my car, and there was a full tray of food on top of my car. Somebody just left it on my car, and I had so much restraint because in my head I just wanted to pick it up and just like throw it somewhere. It took everything in my being to place it on the ground and then drive away because I'm pissed. It's 4 a.m. and now I gotta deal with this shit. It was like a paper one too, so it left residue on the top of my car. Yeah, some people. Whew. Anyway, so how'd you get into Rocket League casting? Natural segue, right?
I mean, that's one and the same. Things that make you aggravated to Rocket League, I guess. I mean, not necessarily. I guess the journey. I guess weirdly, I've told this story before, but I don't know if I've actually told it connectedly. More or less, it's I used to play a lot of video games, but I was always the player, and I think this is like a personality thing that there's like types of gamers, and I'm someone who doesn't really play a variety of games. I just have like one game that I get really into, and I just like main that. And for me, that was Call of Duty back in high school. I was a greasy COD kid. I would be grinding that game constantly. And that was before I did content creation or anything. I just would play a lot of it. And eventually the COD started to get not boots on the ground. They got really like, your wall running, your double jumping, your triple
so
jumping.
Advanced Warfare.
There's ultimates. Yeah, Advanced Warfare, Infinite Warfare. Around there is where I kind of just was like, I'm done. Just put down the controller. I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. But the thing that really bothered me always on a deep like philosophical level almost is I'm naturally competitive and I always have been. But the thing that bothered me about COD is that no matter how good you are, there is the chance for just random luck to just kill you, or just something happens or a player gets a death streak and kills you or something. And it's just like I can't predict that. I hate how this system works. And so when Rocket League came out, my friends sold it to me by being like, hey, you should play this. It's $20, super fun. You play soccer, so just, you like it. It's car soccer. I'm like, all right, whatever. But the more I played it, I was like, oh my God, this game literally has no RNG. There's one aspect of RNG in that after a demo, you get spawned to a random quarter. But other than that, if you lose a game, it's because the other team played better than you. And if you win a game, it's because you played better than the other team. There's literally no other factors involved. And that tiny concept alone was like hyper attractive after a decade plus of playing Call of Duty and raging about how much random, uncounterable nonsense that goes on in that game.
Yeah, no, you just have to embrace the rage with COD. But you also played soccer?
I started off playing soccer quite a lot, which is fortunate because if not, I would have a terrible metabolism, I feel like. But I played soccer up through college before blowing my back out in one of the preseasons. And I was kind of like, I'm done, because I was someone who didn't really work out as much. I went to the gym with teammates and I did workouts with teammates, and we did like scrims and individual practices with teammates. But when I was kind of on my own to rehab, I just did not feel like it. I just can't go to the gym by myself, and still it's hard to motivate myself consistently. So I got to this point where I'm like, yeah, I don't really want to play anymore. And so I feel like my competitive outlet from soccer, which used to be like my day and night thought, would just got transitioned into esports. And we're like, all right, cool. We're just going to do that. And then we just went on that train.
I guess there's nothing that could really reinforce the idea of esports than a terrible injury that leaves you off your feet, right? So, I mean, it was a nice transition into Rocket League, but when did you move into, I guess, the league Rogue United? or
It United Rogue
United Rogue?
was
Ah,
yeah.
I blew it. No.
Yeah. No, I was thinking it's like Rogue United, and I was like, oh right. United Rogue was in late 2018. I was streaming or thinking about streaming for a while, but I was playing online with my like first group of Steam friends, and they all happened to be part of this league. And by now, the United Rogue, it's a partner Twitch channel. It's basically community leagues for every skill level imaginable in the game. Uh, and so it was just kind of like a fun way to like get that competitive energy out, but also just meet a bunch of people, join a community. And the thing is that because it's a community league, they didn't have any like sponsors or any money coming in. It was headed by some a guy, but he didn't really have any significant financial backing. It was literally just like his own money. So if he had spare money at the end of the month, maybe he would like throw it towards something. But casting wasn't paid or anything wasn't paid. But I remember because of that, they really struggled to keep casters. And a lot of people in the broadcast were like, yeah, these casters are like okay, but Taco, I feel like you would be. I feel like you'd be like someone that could cast. I mean, you're like quick on your feet or whatever, and I think I don't know, you'd be dynamic enough that I think you should give it a try. And so I volunteered and I did, and then that is the reason I cough. No, but that is the reason I met Kendo, who's the talent manager now for the collegiate Rocket League B stream. He just happened to be like vibing out there, and he noticed me, and he just kind of picked me up and as a mentor and said, "Hey, I think you actually could do this at like a high level if you stuck with it. So I'm gonna like teach you tricks of the trade." And that's where I met him. It's where I met Sleegy. It's where I met Squid. It's where I met Chixa. It's where I met a lot of casters that I know to this day through those connections I made in United Rogue, which is just a at the time very small just community get together of some of these players just to play some Rocket League.
That's a nice way to blossom into something greater. Also, Miles, thanks. Welcome to the studio. But it came from doing volunteer work, and now you have a very deep rooted connection throughout the scene. But when it comes to an early start, you do have to take on some lame gigs or maybe some gigs where you aren't exactly in your best performance. What's the worst moment that you've had on a cast?
The worst. Oh man. Uh, as a form of therapy, I try to immediately repress all of that. So I'm trying to like have to dig back through there. The worst moment. I mean, usually it's. I would say there's no moment that in like it's mostly just little irritants. Like if you actually watch back any video or if you're in a call with me where my face is being recorded, like if you're seeing a vmix or something and you're watching me cast, I will definitely toss a call and then kind of like talk to myself real quick. I'll just go like stop doing blah 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 because I notice I do some quirk and I'm trying to like teach myself, and that's just a way of like bringing it to my attention. But like I would say nothing really too irritating. I think it's just usual stuff of like looking back at with cringe. One thing I think when I do VOD reviews for other casters or for myself, the one thing that I notice the most is the inability, or rather the lack of awareness on when to pass a call over to your co-caster. Rocket League is very dynamic. Some esports have very long P by P PvP sections, and then it throws to color for like like a 45 to 15 ratio of seconds per minute. Whereas like Rocket League is much more conversational. So when you have one player who's just or person who's just going da 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 for like way too long, it just ruins everything. And so I remember very much in the beginning listening back to casts and just banging my head against the table where I'm just like, it sounds so bad. So luckily I've gotten to a point where that hasn't happened, but there's definitely some early gigs on United Rogue, on some of my first paid gigs where I despise how I sound in those. So those are, I would say, my worst moments just because it sounds unpolished and very yikes.
Have you ever cursed on a cast?
Thankfully, no, but I've been on cast when it's happened, and I just burst out laughing because it hit me. It's just like a cold splash of water because it's the last thing you expect to hear, and it was from a player who, a caster who I will not name for their own sake, but moments before this, we came back from break because we're doing RLCS Swiss stage for day one stream. Or no, a close qual. So day three, they were just talking about like, hey, yeah, it's my goal one day to get on the RLCS desk or something or cast at that level. So if you want to get to that level, you have to be polished. And then like cut to like 20 minutes later, they just drop an F bomb in the middle of a call because there was like 5 back to back to back to back saves, and they're like, "Oh my god, like that holy blank," and then holy and so then you just hear that, and you're like, and I just start bursting out laughing, and he just starts stammering, and I can only hear his voice, but I know his expression's like, "Oh, no, 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 no," because the thing is, Psionics, when you swear on a closed qual stream, the company that runs Rocket League, for if you're not aware, they have a community manager that will DM production and be like, "We heard that, don't do that." Like, they try to, like, keep on track of everything because they want it to be an E-rated broadcast for everyone. So they're like, if you swear, they're gonna get on you, and they're gonna yell at you. So, uh, not the best moment, but something definitely I remember so vividly to this day.
I have had one moment of saying fuck. It was on a unified stream for Valorant.
Oh, Unified.
Yeah, unified. So
With Emery.
yeah, she actually DM'd me after. I'll just say. So it was like triple overtime at that point, and it went into quadruple overtime. And it was the last map of the series, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this is great! What a way to finish off this series! Double overtime, triple overtime, quadruple overtime. Fuck it, let's go to quintuple overtime." And then once it came out of my mouth, I was like, "Oh fuck!"
It's I would say it's definitely, as a caster, especially if like you're starting to pick up traction, try to get more gigs. The worst thing you want to do is be labeled as like a liability. So like that stuff goes through my mind almost as like I guess like the best psychological term would be like an intrusive thought, kind of like it's like in the back of my mind, like, hey, would it be like wacky if you just swore? Would that be embarrassing and stupid? And I don't think it would ever happen, but there's definitely been times where I've been talking really quickly and then I almost switch into streamer mode where I do swear and I do get much more vulgar. And then I'm like, wait, nope, dial it back. You got to stay locked in, and just being aware of that is key. That's why I almost never take any casts if I haven't slept a
Mhm.
decent amount of, because I almost guarantee when I'm sleepy and my like inhibition is low, that's 100% when it's going to happen.
Yeah, but the next day, Emery, she sent me a DM like, "Hey, good job on the cast last night. You want to keep going with us?" I was like, "Oh shit!" Either they didn't see that, or they thought I was good enough to overlook that one. So hey, I'll take it.
Also, I mean, actually, I guess it doesn't matter, but like, what ESRB rating is Valorant? Is that teen, or is it
It's
is it a
teen.
mature game? Okay, because I was thinking to myself, COD swears in their broadcast at times, or they used to on some of their stuff, and I was always wondering, like, wait, why would they do that? And I'm like, well, technically the audience is mature, so it's kind of weird to like bleep a swear, and then everyone who's like in their 20s watching this is like, huh? Like, why are you bleeping it? Like, why does that matter? So, I guess that makes sense. But okay, I mean, at the end of the day, if they overlook it, I think that's for the best. You never want to get reprimanded by the talent manager.
Yeah, but also it's interesting because one of the agents, Jet, she says shit. So like as a like a closing line in one of the rounds, like, "Oh, gotcha, you little shit."
Oh,
And then
jeez.
like that's a line the agent says, and they don't turn off agent voice lines. So I think that means it's free reign to say shit on all future Valorant broadcasts, right?
I think that's the strat. To be honest, if you want to stay current with where Valorant is at, I think you need to swear as much as the agents do.
It wasn't me. It was Jet. It was Jet.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, but yeah, I think that could be your defense as they, haul you from the booth after your fourth time swearing.
Oh man, 4 times in a row. That would be insane to do. But there's always a need for someone to be a trendsetter, right?
I mean, yeah, you got to break the mold. I mean, it's just the same old casters day in, day out, not swearing on cast. And if you're like, I'm gonna reinvent the wheel here. I'm gonna really break out of this box. I'm gonna shift this paradigm, and then you're gonna really push this whole medium forward.
People could say fuck, people could say shit, but are you ever really expecting to hear someone say straight up cock on a broadcast? Probably not. Probably not. So I think that's good. Oh, hold on. I think I unlocked a memory here.
No, not a memory, but this is so. I'm not a huge fan personally of planning out calls. And I'm not, and people who do that in esports, I don't really mind it. I know Stacks and Jorby on the RLCS stream, they do it occasionally, or they think of a situation that they might use it. only because I feel like when it's in my mind already, I'm kind of like trying to nail it, and I think it'll change the way I pronounce something. But I remember the one time I did think about it is on the CRL stream. We have a team in the West called St. Edward's University from Texas, and one of their players is called Cluck Cluck, and I said, "Hey, can I run a line by you guys? Because if he peaks and gets a crazy goal, I really want to use this goal call." And they're like, "Oh, well, what's your idea?" And I'm thinking, okay, but the thing is, it might be selectively bad, and I guarantee it's going to get clipped and taken out of context. Like, well, okay, well, what's your idea? And so I'm thinking to myself, this dude's name is Cluck Cluck, spelled like a chicken. And I'm thinking to myself, I would love for him to score a crazy banger of a goal. And I'm like, oh my goodness, Cluck Cluck cock a doodle, do it to him or something like that. And I thought that'd be great. And they heard that and they're like, you do have to say cock in order to say that. So they're like, I sure it's fine if you say it fast enough. So I say just go for it. And I was like, yeah. And then I never got to use it. But
Oh,
it's in the back of my mind. If he's ever in a tournament, he scores anything remotely decent, I will be using that.
I've whenever I'm casting CS and somebody gets an amazing play with the Glock, I'm like, oh my god, he hit him with a Glock 9000. Yeah, and it has great reviews. When I first used that, it was at, I believe, Fragadelphia, so an in-person tournament, and my co-caster just looked at me like,
Is that all right?
yeah, well, apparently it was, because nobody said anything, and they invited me back a few times, so...
Excellent.
So, yeah. Yeah, and in fact, I think that actually, maybe not that one specifically, but being that guy who's willing to take it to the edge, puts it to the limit. They want me to do more content-esque things, so I feel like maybe they like that. But also, Frag is a very niche tournament where they like to fuck around with the players. So I wouldn't recommend anyone do that in any other scenario.
Yeah, there's not a lot of times where you get to do that. The closest I've ever been is actually to this day, probably one of my favorite gigs I've ever worked was eFuse hit me up. They DM'd me a gig, and they're like, I'm gonna be dead ass. Like, you're lucky that your name is what it is, because otherwise we probably would have just found someone else. But like at the end of the day, you're someone we respect as a talent, and your name is perfect for this. Taco Bell has a tournament coming up for Rocket League. It's an employee championship. So basically, they have all their employees get into teams of people who work at the same location, and they're going to play in a tournament. And I was like, okay, so why are you bringing this up to me? They're like, okay, well, we want you to cast it, but we want you to like meme it the whole time. I'm like, oh, you mean like still kind of cast it, but like in a meme way? They're like, no, I don't even care if you cast it. I just want you to be basically a personality, and your coast caster is just going to like lightly grill these players and just kind of like make fun of them and just keep it really loose. And I absolutely despise that type of casting. I would much rather just like cast. But after doing it, it was super fun. So I think when you do have like a gig that allows you to do that, you can definitely, if you embrace it and really like get into the vibe of it, I think it definitely can be a nice change of pace.
Oh, that does sound like a lot of fun, like just a Valorant After Dark type scenario where, yeah, I've always had the idea where it would be a cast, but just drinking's involved and kind of like roasting players, but still giving very light analysis or like calls. I think that would be just some high tier entertainment. And as long as people are getting, their gameplay shouted out on a stream, I think they'd be happy too. As long as we're not absolutely shitting on them in terms of their skills, unless it's, funny enough, right? I would like that. I'd like to be roasted a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think, man, I don't know why they stopped this. I might have to tweet this out, see if anyone remembers. In the Rocket League scene back in like season 2, 3, 4. I mean, we're in like past 11 now, but there was a moment where there was a league held by the casters and I think some smaller creators called Liquor League, and it was literally like RLCS teams or at least like high level teams playing, and the casters were creators and the RLCS casters, and they would just be taking shots as every series progressed or every game or something progressed, and eventually it just got into chaos. The grand finals, just two dudes who at that point are easily like 8 to 10 shots in or something
Oh
like
my
that,
God.
just trying to cast, and they're just so bad. They're just like slurring everything and just trying to come up with like wordplay. They just can't do it at all. And it was really fun to watch. I don't know what happened to that. Maybe they just couldn't afford to be that drunk on like a weekday or whatever, but who knows?
Yeah, that feels like a nice weekend thing or like a Friday night cast. In the middle of the week, 8 shots? Oh,
It was a lot. I remember tuning into it and being like, there's no shot. This is like, 2 beers in, like they are hammered right now. Like they are 100% gone.
I forget. There was I think it was Super Bowl Sunday that I was with my friend and we were just taking shots and it ended up being way too many. We didn't even watch the Super Bowl. I just remember we listened to like pop punk emo music and we're just taking shots. And I woke up the next day terrible, but not like hungover. I was still a little drunk. And
Wow.
I went in to my job and like shot a video. This was early into my career, not even esports yet. I was on a financial news website and we did a video about some cannabis stock that does not matter because they're in Canada and like you can't access them on the New York stock market. Oh my god. And nobody even knew. They liked the videos. Everything was solid, and I somehow like an angel walked me through that day. I don't know what the fuck it was, but yeah.
I mean, at a certain point, like I do have a theory that there's like barely any work being done the Monday after the Super Bowl. Like it's just like there's got to be at least 60% of the nation's workforce are maybe not like drunk, maybe still like at your level, but they're definitely like stayed up way too late. That game finishes at like bare minimum midnight, and then if you're at like party, you have to leave or like try to get out of there. And by the end of the day, if you're going to your 8 a.m. job, like you're going to bed at like 2 a.m., maybe 3 a.m. Like half those people, especially if you're in like your 40s or 50s, like you are dead. There's no shot you're being productive. You should just declare that a national holiday, take the L for the day for all the profit, and then move on.
Yeah, I feel like that would probably happen before voting day is turned into a federal holiday.
Yeah, why? Yeah, that is a good point. I feel like that feels realistic in this reality where they're like, yeah, there's Super Bowl Monday, just day off, and everyone's like, what about the election day? They're like, sorry, I can't hear you. That's just too many things going on, too much governmental business going through. But you're welcome for that one day off.
Well, speaking of national pastimes here for Americans, I have a little bit of a challenge for you. You're a top-tier Rocket League commentator, but I also want to see what you could do in another venture, another sport that involves motorized vehicles at high speeds. So, I'm going to ask you, I want to know if you can commentate on some NASCAR highlights and see if that can be a potential transition job for you. What are you thinking, Taco?
I know and respect NASCAR, but I know very little about the scene, about even rules of driving, which is hilarious because NASCAR and F1, so many of my friends are into it, and I'm just like, nah. So I think I can maybe come up with it. It's a little tough when you know none of the names, but I think
you could just assign names that are in the RLCS. If you remember names, just toss them on there. It doesn't matter. Are you ready?
As ready as I could possibly be.
All right. Oh, I guess the space button. Wait a minute. Hold on. Boom. I gotta mute it. There we go.
Waving the green flag, off we go. This camera is deceptively slow. These people are not going any faster than about 30 miles an hour, but that's why we love NASCAR. It is as safe as it is mildly entertaining, and we are getting quite a lot of colors. You see beige, off beige, maybe even black, but not to be outdone, we do have bright yellow and bright blue, as well as a little bit of tinges of red, but you don't want to stand out if you're driving 30, maybe 40 miles an hour. Again, very slow cars. You want to make sure that things are composed, you're not being flashy, you're not trying to stand out, because half of the strategy every single lap of NASCAR is blending into the pack, kind of like you don't want to draw attention to yourself in middle school. Otherwise, you're going to get shoved in the locker, which is, in this case, a restraining wall, as we're seeing quite a lot of strategy being employed here in NASCAR. I will say losing not the best one as we're looking through. Harvick barely even trying, is leading up 13th place. That's an unlucky number. I think the longer you stay in that, the worse that it's really going to be for you. But good job from Hamlin, still holding on to first. Elliott is really just sniffing the bumper, really inhaling all those exhausts and really trying to get the maximal sniff of that. I think that's really what drifting or drafting is all about. You're really getting all the air to knock away, but then you have to deal with really the smell of being behind another car. As someone took too big of a sniff, they had to steer away their whole head from the center frame. They're just going to crash in the sidewall. I would say of optimal strategy at this 30 to 40 mile an hour pace, that is not one about it. Look at him. He's trying to K-turn. You drive so fast in one direction. When you have to change directions, you just can't do it. Surprisingly, NASCAR cars are not designed to turn to the right.
Wow. And I am not going to punish you with that any longer. Gotta take a sip of that Rockstar recovery. Well done, Danger Taco. Good shit. What did you think of that?
That is an idea for content that I've been trying to organize for a while, of just like putting random out of context clips and forcing casters to improv over it. And so I'm really happy that you did that, because I'm like, that's something that I've wanted to do for a while as like a series. But my God, is it hard to find just random out of context stuff? Or like, you'd think it'd just be easy. You just Google it or whatever. But no, sometimes it just doesn't work like that. So no, that's fun. It's always good to test the improv.
You did a fantastic job. Well, we got one more question for you, Taco. Where can the people at home find you? Because unfortunately, Late Night with Los has come to an end, but the fun can never end if you find this man across social media. Where, Taco?
I am at Danger Taco on, I think, all social medias, pretty much. I believe I have it on TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter. Twitter is probably the most impactful. That is how I get a majority of my casting gigs, and also just the social media that I use the most, up until Elon Musk puts it into the ground and that website doesn't exist in, let's say, 3 to 5 business days. But I suppose we'll just have to see.
3 to 5 business days. Hey, that is that's not a bad estimate, because I'm not purchasing Twitter Blue. Well, actually, I already had the OG version of Twitter Blue, because I wanted to be able to edit my tweets when I would post them. I'm not crazy. I don't like that look you gave me. Whatever. It is what it is. Thank you so much for joining us on Late Night with Los Danger Taco. We're going to throw this one to a friend of the show. But until then, we're not going to be back next Thursday. I got so much casting work to do, but we'll be back sometime in a studio near you. Same place, some other time, here on Late Night with Los Danger Taco. Thank you so much for joining us on Late Night with Los. Thank you for the sub miles. Appreciate that one. We're going to send this over to my friend Lord Edzo, friend of the show. Make sure you show him some love. My throat is totally fucked. I'm a little sick, but we're gonna rate it in 2, 1. Blah.